go over ground already covered by Goering. There must be no further explanation of Nazi policies.
The day of the sentencing, I was in the courthouse, and the defendants assembled outside of the courtroom, and the roll was called, and I was asked to call the roll, so I called the roll. It was a strange feeling, you know, and I said, Goering, ja, jawohl, you know, and they stepped to attention. Keitel, jawohl, he was a field marshal, and so on, and that was it. That was my entire part in the thing.
Defendant Hermann Wilhelm Goering, the International Military Tribunal sentences you to death by hanging. Defendant Rudolf Hess, on the counts of the indictment on which you have been convicted, the tribunal sentences you to imprisonment for life.
Goering had prepared for his suicide more than a year in advance, before he was captured. He had taken 3 of these suicide capsule containers. I have the one Goering finally killed himself with. They were 1 cc ampoule of cyanide kept in this cut-off rifle cartridge case for protection. These were mass-produced at one of the concentration camps. He was lying on his bunk and just decided the time had come, so he moved the ampoule hour between his teeth and bit it. Everybody converged on him, and he was dead.
Oh.
They were cremated in the ovens of Dachau, which was something that he planned very carefully, because they are the ones that ordered other people to be cremated in those. And then the ashes were deployed into an unidentified river.
My father wanted the good to be glorified and honored, but not the evil. And so he made great efforts to prevent any item that these criminals, particularly the ones that were condemned, anything that would remind anybody of them, to be removed and destroyed forever and wiped from the memory of the world, hopefully, the evil that they had been a part of.
Well, here is a pair of Hermann Goering's underwear left behind in the laundry when his body was taken away to be burned. Beautifully made, monogrammed, finest materials, and his socks, again, handsomely made, wonderful material, and here was this little pile of laundry. That was the only remaining souvenir.
When the trial was over and the defendants that were sentenced to death were executed and Goering had committed suicide, he beat them to it in a way. The show was over. With them went the idea of the Body National, which is now looked at as a phantom.
Hitler, out. Swastikas, gone. Nazi propaganda, off the air. Concentration camps, empty. You'll see ruins. You'll see flowers. You'll see some mighty pretty scenery. Don't let it fool you. You are in enemy country. You are up against something more than tourist scenery. You are up against German history. It isn't good.
Following the trial, the Allies embarked on a gigantic act of exorcism. They destroyed all trace not just of the Nazi past, but of Germany's military history. The giant statues that lined the Tiergarten in Berlin were removed to a compound to be dynamited. But the Germans organized a secret operation to rescue them. They remained hidden until 2 years ago.
Sie wurden dann bei Schloss Bellevue im Garten vergraben, bei Nacht und Nebel, wie man sagt. Ich war nicht dabei, aber es muss eine geheime Aktion gewesen sein. So geheim, dass man später gar nicht mehr wusste, wo diese Skulpturen liegen.
For the Americans, these sculptures symbolized the old barbarism that had plagued Europe for centuries. That was now gone forever. The Good War had ushered in a new age in which such terrible things would never happen again, because evil had been banished from the world. Large parts of the European past had to be wiped and forgotten. A new world would be constructed, free from the bitter historical memories that had driven nations to war again and again. In the American project, the individual and democracy were more important than the nation. Underlying this was an optimistic belief that human beings were good.
We all had a hope that the world would have learned something from the horror of World War II, that people had learned perhaps to be more civilized in relations between one nation and another, that there wouldn't be a repeat of the invasions, the killings, where disputes could be settled without war.
Here is one of the many buildings in which tomorrow the General Assembly of the United Nations will be waging not war but peace. Entering will be representatives of all the nations dedicated to peace, large and small, meeting together in sovereign equality. These men and women...
We visualized a world which would be more rational and civilized, where nations would get along with one another, where people could live with each other in peace.
This is not the capital of some super-state trying to rule the earth. It represents the mind and conscience of the world. It is the watchtower over tomorrow.
If individuals really could be freed from the threatening ghosts of their past, then a new, more civilized kind of human being would emerge. Citizens of a new age, free for the first time from the power of history.
Die Alliierten wollten dieses Stück Geschichte verdrängen, zerstören, annullieren, und darin liegt ja ein gewisser magischer Akt.
I see a new sun up in a new sky, and my whole horizon has reached a new high. Yesterday my heart sang a blue song, but today hear it hum a cheery new song. I dreamed a new dream.
The heroes of this new age were the veterans who had fought and won the war. But many of them had secret memories that conflicted with the official version of the Good War. Memories that gave a much more complex and frightening picture of what they had done.
Those memories, after a while, they control you, you know. They come to you. So what happened? You think about what happened. You think about the bad things that happened over there. Because some of it is very bad. And then you got dreams, nightmares, you know. You hate people. You fly into a rage at the little thing, you know, the smallest thing, bang, you know, you lose your temper. You hate the world. You stay by yourself.
Hey, turn that off. Will you turn that thing off?
What's eating you now?
Yeah, what's eating you? That music, it stinks. Oh, you don't like it, huh? No, turn it off.
Now, wait a minute, pal.
There's clearly a conflict between individual memory and the big story, as you might put it, which was constructed out of a number of actual and very useful events. One was the trials at Nuremberg, which established the version of the Good War, which is certainly true. On the other hand, chipping away at that constantly is this secret version of the war, which is possessed by the actual combat veterans.
Did you ever want to forget anything? Did you ever want to cut away a piece of your memory or blot it out? You can't, you know. No matter how hard you try. You can change the scenery. But sooner or later, you'll get a whiff of perfume where somebody will say a certain phrase or maybe hum something. Then you're licked again.
The problem is that the experience of the veterans is very largely depressing, pessimistic about human nature. It shows how awful human beings can be, and how indeed how they can be brought to enjoy murder and enjoy depriving other people of their limbs and their lives. Now that's very bad news for human nature, and it conflicts with the optimistic news which is conveyed by the official picture.
Yes, go on. You remember it now?
Many thousands of veterans had wiped their memories. The US Army made a film record of the attempts to help them. It was kept hidden for over 40 years because it was considered bad for civilian morale.